I was standing in my own living room, and my wife Bethany had just handed me a white envelope. Around me stood her entire family, her father Richard, her mother Patricia, her younger brother Justin, and her older sister Diane with her husband Jeffrey. They were all watching me with these strange smiles on their faces. It was my 32nd birthday. I thought this was going to be some kind of surprise party. But when I opened that envelope and saw the words divorce papers printed at the top, I felt my stomach drop. The air in the room shifted. I looked up at Bethany, confused, and she was smiling. Before I tell you what happened next in that room, I need to know something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. If you have ever felt humiliated by someone you loved, hit that like button because you are not alone. And subscribe, because what I did after signing those papers, let's just say karma works in mysterious ways. Now let me take you back to how this nightmare began. I met Bethany 7 years ago at a small coffee shop in Portland. I was working for a tiny tech startup at the time, just a junior developer trying to make something of myself. Bethany was finishing her last year of college, studying marketing. We talked for hours that first day about books, art, our dreams for the future. She was different back then, simple, genuine. She never mentioned money or status. She just seemed to see me for who I was. I had no idea Bethany came from the Caldwell family. They owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across Oregon and Washington. Old money, real money. The kind of wealth that makes people forget what normal life looks like. We dated for 6 months before she finally invited me to meet her family. I should have known then what I was walking into. The Caldwell house sat in West Hills, this massive estate with views overlooking the entire city. When I pulled up in my beat-up Honda, I felt like I was entering a different world. Richard Caldwell opened the door. He was in his 60s, tall, with perfectly combed silver hair and eyes that seemed to calculate your net worth the moment they landed on you. Patricia stood behind him, elegant in a way that felt cold, wearing jewelry that probably cost more than my car. She smiled, but it never reached her eyes. Justin was 22 then, still in business school, wearing boat shoes and a polo shirt like he had just stepped off a yacht. He shook my hand with this smirk that said he already knew I did not belong there. Diane was 35, married to Jeffrey, a successful lawyer. She looked at me the way you might look at a stray dog someone brought into your clean house. Dinner that first night was brutal. They asked about my family. I told them my parents were both high school teachers in a small town outside Eugene. I watched Richard and Patricia exchange a look. They asked about my job. I explained I was working at a startup building our platform from scratch, that the pay was not great yet, but the opportunity was real. Justin actually laughed. They asked about my plans for the future. I said I wanted to build a career in tech, maybe start my own company someday. More looks exchanged around the table. Under the table, Bethany grabbed my hand and squeezed it. She defended me. She told them I was brilliant, that I was going places, that they just needed to give me time. I loved her so much in that moment. But looking back now, I realized she was already making excuses for me, already trying to justify her choice to people who would never approve. We got married 2 years later. The Caldwells paid for everything. The wedding had 200 guests. It was held at some historic mansion I had never heard of. I felt like a guest at my own wedding. Everyone there seemed to know each other, seemed to belong to this world I was just visiting. My parents looked uncomfortable the whole time. My mom kept whispering to me, asking if I was sure about this. I told her I loved Bethany. I told her everything would be fine. The first year of marriage, we lived in a small apartment in southeast Portland. I worked long hours at the startup. We were developing slowly but steadily. Bethany got a job at a marketing firm owned by a family friend of the Caldwells. Things seemed okay at first. We were building our life together, or so I thought. But then the changes started. Small things at first. Bethany began comparing our life to her sister Diane's. Diane lived in a huge house in Lake Oswego with a pool and a 3-car garage. Diane drove a Range Rover. Diane vacationed in Europe twice a year. After visiting Diane, Bethany would come home quiet and distant. Her mother called constantly. After every call, Bethany would seem different, colder, more critical of our apartment, our furniture, our life. The Caldwells started helping us financially. They paid our rent one month when the startup had a rough quarter. They bought us a new couch because ours was from IKEA. They paid for Bethany's car repairs. Every time they helped, I felt smaller, more useless. The monthly family dinners became torture. Richard would ask me about my career with this condescending tone like he was humoring a child. Justin would make comments, "Still at that little startup, Parker? When are you going to get a real job?" Patricia would sigh and say things like, "Well, not everyone is cut out for success, and that is okay." Diane would talk about Jeffrey's latest promotion, his new clients, the bonus he just got. Bethany never defended me anymore. She would just sit there, silent, looking embarrassed, like she was ashamed of me. 2 years into our marriage, the startup hit serious trouble. We had to lay off half our team. I took a pay cut to keep the company alive. Bethany was furious. She started complaining about money constantly. She started going out to dinner with coworkers, more often coming home late. I would ask her about her day, and she would give me one-word answers. I noticed she had new designer bags, new shoes, expensive jewelry. When I asked, she said they were bonuses from work. But something felt wrong. She was pulling away from me. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped touching me. She spent more and more time at her parents' house. I felt like I was drowning, trying to save our marriage while watching it slip through my fingers. I worked harder thinking if I could just make more money, if I could just prove myself, things would go back to how they used to be. But the harder I tried, the further she drifted. And then, 3 months before my 32nd birthday, everything started to make sense in the worst possible way. Bethany started mentioning someone named Derek Harrison. At first it was casual, a new coworker. He had just joined her company as a vice president. He went to Harvard Business School. He drove a Mercedes S-Class. She mentioned him more and more. Derek said this. Derek thinks that. Derek and I had lunch today. Derek invited the team to dinner. Her phone was always face down on the table. Always. She would grab it quickly whenever a notification came through. One night, while she was in the shower, a message lit up her screen. I was not trying to snoop. It was just there. From Derek, "Cannot wait to see you tomorrow. Wear that red dress I like." My hands went cold. When she came out, I asked her about it. She laughed it off, said it was just harmless flirting, that everyone did it at work, that I was being paranoid. She made me feel crazy for even questioning it. So I backed down. I did not want to be the jealous husband. I did not want to seem controlling or insecure. But the feeling in my gut would not go away. 2 weeks before my birthday, I came home early from work. The apartment was quiet. Then I heard Bethany's voice coming from the bedroom. She was laughing. I walked quietly down the hallway and stopped outside our bedroom door. She was on a video call. I could hear everything. Bethany was saying, "I cannot wait to be done with this. Living with him is suffocating." A man's voice responded, Derek's voice, deep and confident. "Just a few more weeks, baby. Then you will be free and we can finally be together properly." Bethany laughed again. "My dad already has the lawyer ready. I just need the perfect moment." Derek said, "Make it hurt. He deserves it for wasting your time." I stood there in the hallway of my own home, listening to my wife plan my humiliation with her lover. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I could not breathe. I walked back out of the apartment as quietly as I had entered. I got in my car and drove around Portland for hours. I did not know where to go. I did not know what to do. When I finally came home late that night, Bethany was in the living room watching television. She asked where I had been. I told her work emergency. She just nodded and went back to her show. I went to the bedroom and lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. I could have confronted her right then. I could have screamed and yelled and demanded answers. But something in me stayed calm. Something in me wanted to see exactly how far she would go. I wanted to see what she was really capable of. The next morning I called a divorce lawyer. Her name was Sarah Matthews, 40 years old, with a reputation for handling difficult cases. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Document everything. Do not react emotionally. Let her make the first move. For the next week, I played the role of the oblivious husband. I went to work. I came home. I asked Bethany about her day. I pretended everything was normal, but inside I was preparing. I took screenshots of text messages between Bethany and Derek when she left her phone unlocked. I moved some of our savings into a separate account. I backed up all our important documents. Bethany asked me a few times why I seemed distant. I told her I was stressed about work. She seemed satisfied with that answer. In truth, I think she was relieved I was not paying attention to her. My birthday arrived on a Thursday. That morning, Bethany woke me up with a kiss on the forehead. "Happy birthday, honey," she said sweetly. "I have a surprise for you tonight." I smiled and said, "I cannot wait." She left for work. I sat in our empty apartment drinking coffee, staring out the window at the gray Portland sky. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah Matthews. "Remember, stay calm, sign nothing without reading, call me if you need." I texted back, "I am ready." That evening, Bethany called me at 6:30. "Come home at 7, she said. "The surprise is waiting." I drove home through rush hour traffic, my heart pounding the entire way. I parked outside our apartment building at exactly 7. I sat in my car for a moment, took a deep breath, and walked inside. The moment I opened the door, I knew this was it. The entire Caldwell family was standing in my living room. Richard was by the window in a full suit, a glass of whiskey in his hand, looking like he was at some corporate event. Patricia sat on our couch, her thin smile already in place. Justin was leaning against the wall, phone in his hand, and I realized with horror that he was recording. Diane and Jeffrey stood near the kitchen, arms crossed, watching me like I was some kind of show. On our dining table sat a bottle of champagne in an ice bucket. 5 glasses arranged in a neat row. No birthday cake. No presents. No decorations. And Bethany stood in the center of the room holding a large white envelope. "Surprise, Parker," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet. She walked over and handed me the envelope. I opened it with everyone watching. Divorce papers. Every page already filled out. Every detail already decided. I looked up at her. She was smiling. "I am leaving you for someone who is not a disappointment," she said clearly, loudly, making sure everyone could hear, making sure Justin's phone captured every word. The room erupted. Richard laughed, a big, booming laugh. "We never thought she would actually marry someone so beneath her," he said, shaking his head. "But hey, at least she is correcting her mistake now." Patricia chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Oh, Richard, do not be too harsh." Parker tried his best. "It is just, well, his best was not good enough." Justin lowered his phone for a second to look at me directly. "Bro, no hard feelings, but you gotta know you were never in our league." Diane added, "I told Bethany from day one.